Hello and welcome to Talking Europe, coming to you from the European Parliament in Brussels. I'm Armen Georgian. In many EU capitals, the establishment is keeping a wary eye on France. On April the 23rd, the French will vote in the first round of what is perhaps the country's most important election in a generation. In the light of Brexit and Donald Trump, how will anti-elite sentiment play out? The poll might set the stage for Frexit, or at least a Eurozone exit, but it could also maintain the status quo or even lead to greater French involvement in European affairs. In these troubled and uncertain times, we ask our panelists how France is viewed by its European partners. Well, joining me are a conservative-leaning Pole, the independent MEP ZDZISLAW KRASNODEBSKI, welcome to you, welcome back. German Green MEP SVEN GIEGOLD, welcome to you as well, Sven. Both of you regulars, of course, on this programme. Brando Benifei from the group of Socialists and Democrats in the European Parliament, welcome to you.
Thanks. And
last but not least, Charles de Marcilly, who is French and works for the Robert Schuman Foundation here in Brussels. Hello, Charles, welcome to you. I'd like to start with you, actually. What do you expect from this French election in terms of France's role in Europe as a possible future leader, both politically and in the Eurozone?
This is a key question because we are in a tunnel of elections, not only in France, but we have seen in the Netherlands. Maybe it starts with Austria, it will be concluded with Germany. So we know that this is not a good year to have a big change. We have different scenarios put on the table by Jean-Claude Juncker. All the capitals are expecting to have new ideas for the European Union, and France in somehow is quite blocked due to the election. And this is quite particular because first, the European Union is at the center of the discussion, but with different perspectives, either on how to manage the Eurozone, but also how to manage the European Union as a political tool in terms of diplomatic issue, but also in terms of security or in terms of defense. So what we can expect, and I think this is what Brussels is expecting, is quite to bring on the table new idea and a new dynamic.
Brando Benifei, what about a view from Italy then about this French election?
Well, I think the most crucial issue for Italians is we can say two crucial issues. One about these elections. One is what success or unsuccess will have Marine Le Pen, because she has a strong tie with the Northern League in Italy, the biggest extreme right movement in Italy that is expecting a good result for Marine Le Pen, whatever a winning or maybe a good result in terms of getting with a strong result at the end of the second term to be a spring for their own success. And also we are looking, I think, from an Italian perspective with a lot of attention on what implications could be happening from the results of the French elections in terms of the prospects of reforming of the European Union and especially of the Eurozone. Italy is advocating for a more united Eurozone with a social pillar, with fiscal capacity, with a stronger common budget. This can be possible only if there is a government in France that is supporting this kind of idea for the next year.
ZDZISLAW, I just wanted to come to you. I mean, when you hear this kind of talk about closer union within the Eurozone, I mean, obviously Poland isn't part of it now, but...
There are different polls, of course.
Of course, of course.
There are different opinions, you know.
Yeah. But this is not the direction that you want to go in, presumably, closer union.
No, not really, but I think for us it's something more important, and even the result, the direct result, personal result of this election. But the questions of the role of France in Europe, because you said France is leader, but we had the impression that France actually ceased to be a leader, resigned to be a leader, or resigned to be a major player in European Union. And this is, I think, it's a very sad story, and we need a rebalancing of Europe. We have a situation which is not very good for European Union. This is dominance of one state. It's not good for France, not good for Germany. It's not good for Poland. But I think then to have a more balance between these major states, because you know you mentioned Austria and and Netherlands. They are very important countries, but they are not so crucial. They are not so crucial as France. Yeah, and I think that to have France back in the, in the center of the European affairs, it would be very, very, very important. And I think, and also when I looking at the discussion during the elections among candidates, I see that there are the same topic everywhere in a way. But this is not, according to me, going in the direction of more centralization and so ever closer union. That is, I think we have in everywhere we have actually anti-establishment movement with the demand on the left and on the right. This is also very interesting that Mélenchon is talking about Europe in a similar way as Marine Le Pen. But it is not only, politicians, because they are voices of the society, of the big part of European nation. So we need France back to leadership. We need France because for us in the Central Europe, France is a distant country because it's not really engaged in these questions our concern. I always had the impression France is more interested in Africa, in the south, and just left, European affairs to our German friends.
Sven Giegold, do you agree with that? France has sort of left Europe to Germany. Is that fair?
Well, first, I think it's important to say that German citizens generally still, and despite all the problems our neighbor has, are putting their trust into France. So if you ask French people whom to trust and German people whom to trust in the world, you don't get the United States, you don't get Britain, you get France first. So in civil society and in public opinion, l'amitié franco-allemande is still alive. So we had just last Sunday in 70 cities pro-French, pro-European demonstrations where people, thousands, were in the streets to say, j'aime la France and take your choice and take it with Europe. So that is, I think, what Germans generally want. You will find very few who would support any candidate who wants a rupture with Europe. On the other hand, what is the difference, and there I would like to talk about you, are Germans ready, are German politicians ready to take consequences in European politics so that Europe gets on a more equal and more on the same level of decision-making power basis? And there we see that the political right in Germany is very hesitating. They have a tendency to a new proud in having a strong economy, a strong Germany, while the center left is more ready to support proposals as they were suggested, to have a strong democratic, more based on solidarity basis for the Eurozone and Europe. And that is what is needed in order to rebalance Europe politically and economically.
Yeah, because I want to clarify, just also to colleague KRASNODEBSKI, what I meant with the issue of getting closer, and that's something at the heart of many Italians looking at the French elections, the possibility of getting closer ties in terms of the Eurozone and Europe as a whole. It's the opposite of the idea of a bureaucratic centralization. The feeling that I myself have as an MEP and many Italian citizens is that the Europe of today is a bureaucratic monster, because it is a compromise that is very fatiguing to stay together with this institutional mechanism. We need to change this Europe, and we think that to have a more democratic, more socially responsible, more understandable Europe for citizens, we need to change the institutions, and to have this, we need also France. So who governs France is important in terms of what kind of Europe we can build. But I don't think the point is, I don't think that Macron or Ramon wants a centralized bureaucratic monster in Europe. Instead, we feel that today Europe is slow, it's a little and too late, and while we need a more quick and able Europe to be sovereign again, the real sovereignty that can only be the one put together, not the sovereign on small states unable to stay in the global stage.
Coming back on Eurozone, I think that if we want to implement and to go further, we need France back. But first, France needs some reforms and to have a better economic position. And this is why it's blocked, because there is a lack of trust between the main partners, because France is on an average and is not good enough to say, okay, we have to go further and we will join Germany and the other. So still we have this lack of trust, and I think this is something that the next president will have to deal with it. This is not just to come back to Berlin and to Angela Merkel say, okay, now we will do something. We're saying we are going to do something within France, which will give most trust, and then we can move forwards at the European level, Eurozone European level.
I just want to bring in one important element. I mean, you've mentioned Marine Le Pen and the resonance that she has for things like the Northern League in Italy. Of course, she'll have resonance for the AfD in Germany. It's a question that a lot of our viewers are asking internationally, is she going to win, and what's that going to mean, if so, for the Eurozone and for the European Union? I want us to take a slightly closer look now with this report about her plans for renegotiation with the Eurozone and with the European Union. Let's take a look.
Marine Le Pen's never hidden her Euroscepticism.
The European Union's going to die.
And that includes her distrust of the bloc's common currency, the euro. For the far-right National Front, leaving not just the monetary union but the political one too is about regaining national sovereignty.
The National Front's programme isn't just about getting out of the euro. It embraces all the themes of governing a country. We have real analysis. We've shown that staying in the eurozone has its dangers, not just for the financial security of its members, including France, but for savers too.
In a post-Brexit world, though, Le Pen's taking a more gradual approach. She wants 6 months of renegotiating European treaties, followed by talks on the common currency. After that, she'll hand the choice to the French people in a referendum. However, with polls pointing towards a majority wishing not just to retain the euro but stay in the EU as well, things may not be so simple, and the cost could be huge.
It might be better to reform the Eurozone and European treaties from within than to take a unilateral path that I think will lead to an impasse. That's how you manage the financial risk of ditching the euro, which could lead not just to a major degradation in France's financial situation, but those of other Eurozone member states and even the financial system at large. It's a huge jump into the unknown with risks of massive financial loss.
Moreover, even if Le Pen obtains a mandate on ditching the euro, there's currently no legal precedent for doing so while remaining in the European Union.
So is such a, just imagine if this actually happened, is a renegotiation on such a fundamental level, is it conceivable? Do you think that that's something that could actually happen?
May I? I think that, I'm always very skeptical about such prophecy, because if we remember what was said before Brexit, that Britain will be immediate in catastrophic economic situations. It's not the case. All prediction how would be the Trump and Putin relation also turned out totally false, yeah, as we know. I think also we hear here in the European Parliament that the reflection that we need a deeper discussion about the treaties is growing. It doesn't mean that the union will cease to exist. I think they will exist, but we need as a big reform. And where you and many of us now, there is everybody in politics declared against centralization and bureaucratization and so on.
To me, sometimes the tone is getting really wrong. So when we speak about Europe, regardless from a more federalist position or more position, well, let's get power back. It always has to start to the nation state with a clear yes to what we achieved. And I think that is the first job of politicians today. So those who, in principle, want the integration process, they have to start with a clear yes, and not starting with what all has to change. You can only change what you want. And I know that this is exactly your position, but too often we leave the ground to those who only talk about the change. The second point is, I agree that France needs internal reforms, and that is clearly necessary, and it is in the German interest to have a strong France. But that is not my job as a German. My job as a German is to contribute to a more European Germany. And if I was French, I would also support a position to say we must have internal reforms in order to be able to serve more politically and economically as a more equal partner in Europe.
We need to be clear from my side. We need to defend what European Union means. This means peace, the common market, freedoms, but also we have to be very clear if we, especially from the pro-European side, to trash the naive Euro-optimism that we have seen in these years, sometimes from politicians, and very often in Brussels. We don't need that. We need a Europe of citizens and not a generic pro-European sentiment.
One final, very quick.
Final word is, I don't know who will be the next president, but in any scenarios, we have to deal with collective challenges, and it will go through Brussels and the partners. So anyway, it will be by nature a European.
Thank you so much, all of you. And that's all we have time for now for this section of Talking Europe. Don't go away, because we'll be back for part 2 after this short break.